Greetings to all viewers. My name is Sunitra and this is our second session on Internet of Things. In our previous session, we have discussed about IoT. What are the different things that IoT has? Like, for example, what exactly the meaning of IoT, how evolution happened in technical industries, what future does IoT has, why IoT becomes so booming technologies in today's world, which are some building blocks of IoT, and the basic concepts behind it. Even that, after that, we have discussed architecture of Internet of Things, and even we understand the different types of IoT technologies in today's world. So this was a brief summary what we have learned in our previous session. Now today we are going to learn IoT sensors, some target boards in IoT, and after that we'll learn how all these devices can be connected over the IoT network, and into that we'll understand the need of the gateways and the middleware in IoT. Even we'll understand how to select a communication technology for the same. Then we'll move further to IoT architecture, and lastly we'll see some of the API modules for our IoT modules. So let's have a deep dive in today's session. Talking about sensors, then sensors and the actuators are essential elements of the embedded system. So these are used in several real-time applications, such as suppose for example flight control system in the aircraft, otherwise process control system in the nuclear reactor, or we can say power plants that require to be operated on the automatically controlled. So sensors and actuators mainly differ by the purpose for both that they provide. Okay, so basically sensor is used to monitor the changes in the environment by using the measurements, while the actuator is used whenever it will along with some monitoring control, which can also apply in such a way that it will control the physical change. So these are the devices that act as a mediator between the physical environment and the electronic system, where the sensors and the actuators are embedded. So this is something, the sensors devices that we need in our IoT prototyping. Before we'll understand the hardware that we need in the IoT, first we'll understand what exactly the sensor means. Like basically we'll start with the definition of a sensor. A sensor is an electronics instrument that is able to measure the physical quantity and generate the considerable output through it. So these output of the sensor are usually in the form of electrical signals. So let's understand, suppose with the example like we need to control the speed of our vehicle, and for that purpose we are designing a control system for it. Okay, so it could not be possible by just fixing the fuel throttle, or it may need that to be adjusted at each of the moment, so when the speed is changes. So in that case we can just be done with using some sensors to measure the speed of the vehicle, and which will convert it into the digital form of digital system. So accordingly, for measuring the speed, the throttle is adjusted by the connected electronic device. So a better term for sensor is a transducer. So basically a transducer is any physical device that converts one form of energy into the another form. So in the case of sensor, the transducer converts some physical phenomenon into an electrical impulse, and that can be then interpreted to determine as a reading. One more example, suppose if you want to have, then we can have an example of a microphone. Okay, a microphone is a sensor that take a vibration energy. Okay, that means the sound waves, and it converts it into the electrical energy in the useful way for the other components in the system, so that can be correlated with each other, and back to it will give the back original sound to us. Another type of transducers that we will encounter in many of the IoT systems is called as actuator. So in the simple term, an actuator operates in the reverse direction of the sensor. It basically takes an electrical input and turns it into the physical action. Okay, for instance, an electrical motor or a hydraulic system, or we can say some pneumatic system. So these all are different types of actuators that we have. So in typical IoT system, a sensor may collect information and route it to the control center where the decision is made, and the corresponding to command, it will send it back to the actuator in the response so that it will resend the input. So this is a basic working of an IoT automation. So there are many different types of sensors are available in the market, okay, such as flow sensor, temperature sensors, voltage sensor, humidity sensor. So the list will go on. So in addition, there are multiple ways to measure the same thing again and again. For example, airflow might be measured by using a small propeller, like one you would have seen in the weather station. And alternatively, as in the vehicle measuring the air through this engine flow. In that case, airflow is measured by hitting up a small element, and that will measure the rate at which the element is cooling. Okay. So now let's understand how the sensor work. So basically, sensor are placed as such a way that they can just directly interact with the environment to sense and that particular input energy with the help of the sensing element. So this sensed energy is converted into more suitable form of transducence element. Okay. So there are various types of sensors such as position, temperature, pressure, speed sensors are available. But fundamentally there are two types, analog or digital. So when we say analog and digital sensors, that means we are talking about something like, for example, we can say different types of come under one to basics things, like a digital sensor is incorporated with an analog to digital converter, while analog sensor does not have ADC. ADC means analog to digital converter. So if you want to bifurcate these two sensors, that means if you will take a sensor, you should understand whether that particular digital sensor is incorporated with the ADC or not. If it is contained ADC, that means it's a digital sensor. Otherwise, it is an analog signal. So on the screen, you can see here we have different types of sensors with us, and this is again the working will be depends on how they sense the environmental energy. Okay, we're talking about actuators. So an actuator is a device that alters the physical quantity as it can be caused to the mechanical component to move after getting some input from the sensor. So in the simplest word, we can say it receives the control input. Okay. When we say control input, that means generally we are talking about a form of the electrical signals, and that will generate the change in the physical system through the producing maybe force, heat, motion, etc. So an actuator can be interpreted with the example of simple as a stepper motor. Okay. So where an electrical pulse given to the motor. So each time the pulse given in the input, accordingly the motor will rotate in the predefined amount. As we all know, a stepper motor is suitable for the application where the position of the object has been controlled precisely. We can take an example of a robotic arm. So motors, actuators, motor is the kind of actuator that we can use with some pneumatic or hydraulic controls also. So basically, if you want to understand what is the comparison between the comparison between actuators and the sensors, then we can say Sensors can be used to measure the continuous and the discrete position variables, whereas actuators can be used to impel the continuous and discrete process parameters. Okay, that means a sensor will sense a quantity of physical environment, and whereas actuator will implement electrical pulses into the quantity of physical environment. Okay, so sensors basically place at the input port, whereas actuators can be placed on our output port. Outcome from sensors can be the electrical signal, whereas outcome from the actuators can be either heat or the motion. And the example of sensors can be magnetometer, cameras, oscillator, microphone, etc. An example of actuators can be LED, laser, loudspeaker, some motors, pneumatics, hydraulics, etc. See on the screen you have very good examples of Internet of Things where we are using a sensor and the actuator. Okay, in this we have used a moisture sensor, okay, which basically senses the moisture of the soil. It will detect the unwanted water content and it will send that particular information to our control center. Okay, in the control center it will collect it with sensor, and then it will give the command to the water pump. So in this case water pump is acting as an actuator. Okay, so as soon as the water pump will get the commands from the control centers, it will stop delivering the water. Okay, that means it will switch off. So this is something where and sensor and actuators are now co-working with each other. And this is the best example, a simplest example that we can have in IoT application. So here we have some more examples where IoT sensors has been used according to their need. Okay, so we can use IoT sensors and the actuators while we are going for building automation or any healthcare and life science IoT applications. Even we can use it for home automation and some consumer applications for transportation as well. When we say these are some private causes or need for where we can go IoT applications more widely with industries, environment, security and public safety, and with some retail and logistics application as well. So basically driven by new innovations in the material and the nanotechnologies, now sensors technology is developing at never before seen the pace. Okay, so with the result of increasing accuracy, decreasing size and the cost. So basically we can say no, now the ability to measure and detect the things that weren't previously possible, that now this is possible just because of sensors available in the market. So in fact the sensing technology is developing so rapidly so that it's becoming so advanced, and that can be we'll see the trillions of new sensors deploy annually within a few years also. So we can say till 2020 or 2021 we'll be getting trillions of new sensors that has been already deployed into the market. So why you think why this all these things has happened so quickly? Just because nowadays we are getting sensors for each and everything. Okay, you just name it and that sensor is available in the market. Even these sensors are getting cheaper and cheaper with the costing. Okay, and smaller by the size, so we can use it in any application according to our need. Though it is getting smaller in the size, it is getting more power efficient in their applications, and it is very easy to use all these kind of sensors in our IoT programming or IoT applications. So basically we can say we have very bright future for sensor trends in Internet of Things. Okay, now moving further, now we'll understand some target boards in Internet of Things. So basically, target boards means, in short, we can call it as IoT development board. Okay, so IoT development board enable makers to prototype their ideas. They combine microcontrollers and the microprocessor with the wireless chip and other components in the pre-built, or we can say ready to program package. So we in suppose if we take the history of last 18 months, then you know, in do it yourself market, it has been exploded with the availability of varieties of the boards in the market. So whatever the need of our project or the product, we'll surely get some of the boards that can fit exactly on our requirements. Okay, and the new developers can find it difficult to select which will be the right kind of IoT prototyping board that we need. So we'll discuss it shortly in the briefly. Okay, so while if you want to go to select a IoT prototyping board, then in that case you should understand some features of it, such as cost. Okay, the specification means like the memory, what is the processor, how IO capabilities it has, and everything. We should understand the programming supports and the option that particular prototyping board has. Even some open designs like active users community or timely enhancement forums are there or not. How the reliability of the supplier availability of that particular prototyping board in the market. What is the compatibility with the sensors and the actuator. So these are some kind of criteria on the which we can select a prototyping board for our IoT application. So in the market we have many boards, such as we'll get Arduino Uno or maybe Raspberry Pi, Intel Edison, Udonio, some particle photon or ESP8266. So these are some kind of boards that is available in the market. Okay. Now talking about Arduino, then Arduino Uno remains the top favorite of obsolete beginners and experts. Okay. So considered to be one of the first microcontroller that has been based on development board. So we can say the Arduino Uno R3 is a simple yet a very powerful prototyping environment that we have. Arduino enjoys the best of the community participation and the support, from sensors to actuators to some libraries also, and that is, it has thriving kind of ecosystems by its own. Basically, this board's layout has become almost the golden standard of microcontrollers. So almost every prototyping environment tries to be compatible with the Arduino pin breakout, and the open source IDE to develop the programs in another reason for this popularity. With the simple syntax that can be based on C language, the code can be easily to learn. So these are the benefits that we get in the Arduino Uno. Okay. So basically, talking about Arduino Uno, we have different types of boards available in Arduino range. Okay, we have Arduino Delsmia. We have more than 6 to 7 kind of the boards available in the market. So basically, according to our need, we can use any kind of a Arduino board or Arduino hardware versions. Okay, now talking about Raspberry Pi. The Raspberry Pi is a series of credit card size single board computer. So you can understand how small it is. Okay, and that has been developed in the UK. The new Raspberry Pi 3 includes built-in Wi-Fi and the Bluetooth, making it most of the compact and standalone computer. So we can say this Raspberry Pi 3 is enabled with the Wi-Fi and the Bluetooth. Okay, with more features such as 1.2 gigahertz with 64-bit quad. Okay, with the core ARM Cortex of A53 processor and 1 GB RAM. The HDMI port makes this further easy to hook up with any AV sources. And with the four USB ports and 40 GPIO pins are available on Raspberry Pi 3. So we can just connect many of the peripherals and the accessories to our Pi. Even there are third party breakout boards also that is available in the market, so that you can connect the various Arduino shields to your Raspberry Pi. Okay, now we'll talk about Intel Edison. So this is one more prototyping board that we can use in our IoT prototyping. So Intel Edison is high performance and dual core CPU with a single core microcontroller. Okay, so that it can just support complex data collection. We have Intel Atom 500 megahertz dual core with 86 processing. So we can say 1 GB RAM with Wi-Fi 802.11n, and the Bluetooth is with 4.0 version. So Edison comes with two breakout boards. Okay, one that can be compatible with Arduino, and the other board is designed to the smaller size, so then you can use it for your easy prototyping. So this is kind of benefit that we can have with Intel Edison. Okay, the next board we have is Odoo Neo. So Odoo Neo is full of blown computer that has been Arduino compatible microcontroller, and it is possible as this combination of Raspberry Pi with the Arduino as well. So the board has the same pin out as an Arduino Uno has. This Neo embeds with 2 core on the same processor, okay, with the powerful of 1 gigahertz ARM, okay, and with the Cortex of A9 and ARM Cortex M4 with IO real-time coprocessor. Even it has Wi-Fi Bluetooth 4.0 module with that. So this is again one of the best prototyping board that we can have. Moving further to particle photon. This photon is one of the smallest prototyping board now available in the market. Can be powered by STM32F205 with 120 megahertz ARM. Okay, that can be Cortex of one M3 processor, and this photon has 1 MB flash and 128 KB RAM into it, with some built-in Wi-Fi modules also. So you can understand how powerful it is. Okay, when it has been configured, then the board can be accessible from internet. So which will makes it an ideal prototyping platform to build up connected applications. Even this board comes with 5 analog pins and 8 digital pins for connecting various kind of sensors and the actuators to it. If developer wants, then developer can also buy a variety of shields of interfacing with some relays, motors, and broader Arduino Uno's ecosystems also with the particle photon. Okay, now moving further to ESP8266. Okay, so the feature that ESP8266 has is like it is a low cost chip, okay, with some microcontroller supplemented with the capabilities for example 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi with 16 GPIO and 1 MB built-in flash memory. So this is the small kind of a module that allows microcontrollers to connect to Wi-Fi networks, and which will make TCP/IP connections easily. One more feature actually this ESP8266 has, and that is like it offers a complete and self-contained Wi-Fi networking solution, so that it allows to either host the application or to can offload all the Wi-Fi networking functions from another application processor. So with the helping of this ESP8266, we can have a very good kind of IoT prototyping for our projects. Okay. Now the main question is like how all the sensors can be connected to the internet. How basically the connectivity happens with IoT sensors, actuators with their applications. So basically sensors or any devices, embedded devices can be connected to the cloud, okay, through varieties of methods like for example cellular or satellite, or we can use Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, or some low power wide area networks, that is in short we call this as LPWAN, or we can just directly connect it with the direct internet via some ethernet. So this kind of connectivity can have in our IoT prototyping. So each option has trade-off between the power consumption and the range of bandwidth that has been choosing which connectivity option is best, so that it can come down to the specific IoT application. But they all can be accomplished with the same task, and that the basic task is getting data to the cloud. So basically whenever we are saying connecting different devices in the IoT things, then in that case what we are exactly doing, we are just connecting our sensors, actuators to the cloud so that we can just have a communication of our data through it. So connecting sensors up to the internet of the things is relatively simple, okay, in some cases, and in other cases it will need more consideration. So the improvement in CMOS process, and we can say the packaging technology, is allowing higher level of integration so that the sensors can provide regular digital output with the protocols that can be acceptable to the microcontrollers. The data that has been then packaged and for the Internet of Things ideally use IPv6 protocols for direct connection, and it can be interim steps that can be packaged this data for the local network, and that then can be used for the local gateways to convert the header data to the packets like into IPv6 for wider access over the internet. So basically the connection from microcontroller can be handled in number of ways, from weird ethernet to power line links over the existing power cabling. So however the most of the common approach is that we can just use wireless transceivers, okay, transmitters and receivers that can be connected to the microcontroller so that it will provide the link that back to the central hub, and then it can be onto the internet. So while all this has been common approach to the date, like the emphasis of Internet of Things is to have more direct access to the sensor node. So basically this allows sensors to be added to more network and more easily, rather than just be limited by the addressing spaces of the hub devices. So the different architecture can have impact on the choice of microcontroller. A simple 8-bit devices can be used for direct links to the wired kind of network to the hub. But basically we can say handling higher level protocols such as Ethernet or IPv6 with some 32-bit processor cores can be able to handle the protocol stack, okay, that can be required. So these are some increasingly common and now adding more general purpose analog to digital converters into it. So which can be ways to simplify the designs of sensor node. So when we say that connecting sensors and some embedded devices to the cloud, in that case one question comes like what kind of the gateway that IoT has? What exactly gateway in IoT means? So basically when we are talking about gateway, that means a middleware in the IoT. That means we are talking about an Internet of Things gateway, which is a physical device, okay, or we can say a software program also, that serves as a connection point between the cloud and the controllers, even the sensors and some intelligent devices. So another benefit of IoT gateway is that it can just provide additional security for our IoT network, and the data can be transported. So it basically gives all these features to our IoT prototyping. This IoT gateway performs several critical functions, from translating protocols to encrypting, processing, managing, and filtering data as well. So if you just imagine an IoT ecosystem, a gateway sits between device and the sensors to communicate with the cloud. So you can say this is a kind of a middleware, or it's a kind of a mediator that we have in between sensors, microcontrollers, and the cloud. Okay. So today basically there are some really innovative IoT gateway solutions are available, off the shelf, like these IoT gateways devices launched by popular brands like Dell, Intel, okay, HP, Cisco, and many more, with some loaded and necessary features or functionality to it. So an IoT gateway must have certain features that can be critical in making your system and the process automation for IoT enabled. So exactly what features that any of IoT gateway should have? So the features such as support for multiple connectivity protocols like Zigbee, 6LoWPAN, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, Ethernet, and many more. Okay. The next feature it can has is such as it should secure the communication. Basically, built-in and robust encryption, user authorization and authentication process with some tamper detection, and many more. So when we say we are using gateways, so gateways feature should be one of the most important feature, that is the security of the data. Okay. Then this IoT gateway solution that can that is some hardware or operating system that can be agnostic and scalable. And the next features that we can go for it, like supporting for data storage in the gateway, so that we can recover from the communication failure. Suppose in that case, if any communication failure happens, in that case we can recover our data. So basically that basic features that any gateway can provide. Okay. Another features we can say, like operational advantages features such as edge computing should be there, or data filtering, configurable kind of data rules or analytics, and many more data functions can be happen at gateway. And it should automatic device discovery along with some device verification and authorization features should be done. So these are some kind of features that any IoT gateway can have, or we can say we should have. So basically IoT gateway is a physical device, okay, that can be work as a mediator between sensors and the cloud, sensors, actuators, and the cloud. Okay. So what is a middleware? Okay, what is a middleware in IoT? So IoT middleware is an application that can be independent software, okay, that provides services, which will allows communication between applications. So middleware hides a complexity of the lower layer, this all lower layers like operating system, networks. So in order to ease the all integration of a new and legacy system, basically it allows the things, okay, and some application layer to connect without having to worry about a different kind of operating system on the networks, or we can say resources that server layer has. So we have different types of middle layers in the market. So like we can have database middleware, message oriented middleware, or application server middleware, even web middleware, or we can say a transaction processing monitors also. Okay, more about middleware is like the middleware is a layer, or we can say a set of a software that sublayer interpose between these levels of the application. Okay, between operational and the communication. So the characteristic is to hide the details of different technologies, protocol, or we can say network environment in a such a way that it should hide the data replication, parallelism, or any other things that happens among them. So it is essential to explain the programmer about the issue that that are not directly relevant to its purpose, so which is developed to specific application. So talking about some features of middleware, then it can be like hiding the information distribution, which means like hiding the fact that application is usually composed with many of the interconnected parts that is running in a distributed location, or hiding the heterogeneity of the various hardware components and the operating systems with the communication protocol. Basically, this middleware provide uniformly high level of standard interface for developers and the application integrators, so that the application can be easily built and reused and ported with made to interact with each other. So more features that middleware can have is like it should be object oriented, it should be service oriented, it should focus on the data. Okay, that means the middleware does not focus on the receiver, but in the information propagated, that the purpose of this meaning of what is transmitted is required. Okay, so more effort is spent in ensuring that the effective encapsulation of information and its transmission quality, that where can be controlled the physical aspect and some time and the bandwidth. So this is something a very good features that a middleware has. Okay, even middleware has a good feature that is called as orientated messages. So this means that the middleware differs in the focusing from the all previous ones, like because either of the receiver, the operation, or we can say the data can be communication. Data is a kind of a communication paradigm that we have, but we can say that communication with the physical aspect, such as the size and the time, is mandatory. So the main idea of this is middleware is like the communication is not hidden or encapsulated, but it will expose at least to the extent that so it will allow to manage. So when we are sending the messages and receiving it, so the receiver should identify that should allow us to track the process of delivering the messages to different layers. So basically this is a identifier that is focus on the delivery of the processes. So this is all about the middleware that we can have in IoT. Now we'll understand how to select the communication technologies. Okay, so there are different types of communication technologies that we have. Okay, so for example, we can have short range high speed technology, or with some modular speed, or we can say low range with the high power, etc. So depends on our need, like which we can decide which technology we should go for. Okay, such as range with the throughput or interpolability, some power consumption and the size, and with the perspective of business view, then in that case what a solution cost does it has, what is the time to market or ease to use kind of the module that is available, and what are the different risk factor that it can has. So considering all these kind of the topics, you should consider when you are going to select the communication technology for our IoT prototyping. Okay, so when we say communicating technology, that means we are talking about what exactly the range it's giving. Okay, what the power does it have, what extra features that is providing us to communicate with devices and the cloud. So this is the way that you can just go ahead and select our communication technology for our IoT prototyping. Okay, moving further, now we'll understand what exactly a cloud computing or what exactly a cloud IoT cloud architecture means. Okay, so basically in IoT we need to place to send, or we can say store and share those data amongst the others in outside of the world. Okay, so yes, obviously that means we are talking about a cloud. So see, basically few sources mention that by 2020 more than 50 billion machines will be connected through the cloud, and most of the devices are internet enabled. So just imagine if there is a demand of a connectivity, and there could be the more competition in the cloud market that we may face. So basically, why do we need a cloud services in the IoT? Okay, first of all, you should understand it, like what is the necessity that we should have a cloud computing in our IoT architecture, or we can say our IoT prototyping. Okay, suppose for example, say if you are connecting just the LED to the Raspberry Pi, okay, and you need to do the blinking whenever you get the notification from your Twitter account. So this is a basic kind of application. Suppose for example I need, okay, so the platform for connecting the LED to the Raspberry Pi is called as hardware platform. Okay, but besides that, the platform for connecting our devices to the Twitter account, okay, to our Raspberry Pi, then in that case we need a cloud platform, obviously. So there are billions things that can be connected to the internet, and for that it is no harder to maintain the data, and it is also to send the data, store and process all the data that can be connected, no that can be not possible in your home, but it can be practical, so that it can connect directly with the device to device. So there are great cloud services available to upgrade this, and that also maintain and secure our data. Okay, so basically what is cloud computing? So it is a group of a networked element, okay, which provides services that needs not to be individually addressed or the managed by users. So instead of entire provider managed, a suite for hardware and software can be you can be thought of amorphous cloud. So we can say cloud computing is an on-demand availability of computer systems resources, especially data storage or any computing power, so without direct activating kind of management by the user. So this term is generally used to desire the data centers those are available to many of the users over the internet. Okay, so large clouds can be predominant today, and often have such kind of the functions that can be distributed over the multiple of locations from central servers. Okay, and if these connections to the user that can be relatively close, so now you can understand what exactly the cloud means, right? Okay, talking about the properties and the characteristics of a cloud computing. So on screen you can see it should have a scalability, elasticity, some availability, and the reliability should be there. It should perform the optimization. It should have it should give accessibility to my different portables. it should manage and interoperability, no, it should give me interoperability for different devices and the different connectivity. So these are some features that we can have. Okay, so for example, on demand self service. Okay, so when we say on demand self service, that means we are talking about such as suppose cloud computing resources that can be, provision without human interaction from service provider. In other words, we can say manufacturing organization can, have a provision for additional computing resources, and then as needed without going through, the cloud service provider. So this can be the storage space, virtual machines instance that we can have, right, for database instance and so on. So basically, we can have on demand self service, we can have broad network access, we can have multi tenancy kind of resource pooling, many more. We have a rapid elasticity and the scalability. We have major services like, it will gives us, for example, it can be, used for, suppose if it is a cloud computing resources that has been uses like meter and manufacturing organization to pay accordingly for what they are have used. So whatever according to our need, we can just, release their services accordingly. So these are basic kind of features that any kind cloud servicer or providers can have. Okay, now we'll talk about some API modules in IoT. So when we say API models, that means the application programs, okay, or the programming interface, or we can say API is a agreeably what really tries is, together that connect the things of the Internet of Things. So IoT APIs are the points of interaction between IoT device and the internet, or we can say other elements which are in the network. So APIs are the market enabled, and this Internet of Things devices would be, useless without them. So by exploring the data that enables the multiple devices to be connected, this API provides an interface between internet and the things to be, reveal the previously unseen possibilities. So we can say, in the coming year, to come, the power and the importance of the APIs will be, forefront for the conversation around the enabling, and the more important is monetizing the Internet of Things. So basically, the API have become one of the advanced technological widgets which, can bring together all the application devices, data, and the cloud together. So basically, it established the communication among the different sensors that deployed to the multiple devices, and also it will allow data to analyze in the cloud. So basically, API are critical part of the ecosystem for serving for service providers that can be, build the tools and the solution for integrated APIs with their products. So basically, when we say API, that means it's an important mediator, between our application and actual devices. So there are different API models are available in the market. Okay, so this is a kind of a small graph where we can see, with the time slab, which are the providers are providing API modules. Okay, so talking about drivers for API economy, then this kind of APIs can be mobile kind of related application or internal innovation. Even some developer innovations can be there. Even it has new channels and the new business models also. Since this API management can be done with the different types of scalability, such as we can say intelligent APIs that we have. It can be done authentication and the authorization. Even it will tell us how to control the access, how we can just monitor our devices in our IoT application. So basically, talking about the anatomy, then it should be the functional capabilities and some administration capabilities it should have. Okay, even it should have some monitoring capabilities. Okay, so all these services can be controlled with through the APIs. Okay, like such as throttling, catching, requesting, routing, buffering, stat collections or monitoring, or any alternation or decision making can be done with the API. So this is API management we can have at the edge. Okay, so when we say edge, that means it is more closer where the device is. Okay, so we can say instead of any remote cloud server, will be having a computing near to the device. Okay, or inside the device itself also. So there are several patterns for our API management that we can have. Okay, uh, these are some patterns that we'll be talking about. So this is the first pattern that we have. It will be a single device, okay, having all the API management capabilities. For example, good example is Alexa. So this has all management capabilities into itself. Then we can have device, then authorization manager. So whenever it should have the communication between these two layers. The third pattern is like device, then through the gateway will reach to the API, or it will be kind like device, then authentication has been done, then it will reach to gateway. Okay, at the gateway it will start collections and it will do the processing of the data, and then it will reach to the app. Again, in between this we can have one more block, that is mediation or say routing. Okay, so basically this will understand where exactly the data routing should be done. Again, into this we have add one more block, that is message queuing. So this is what it will be using for multitasking things. So at a time it will do the message sequencing accordingly, so that that task can be happen accordingly. Here what we have done is we have added different devices with our gateways. So it will what exactly do, it will just identify the different devices, and it will just queue the particular work, or we can say processes, and then accordingly it will have. So this is kind of the different kind of APIs that we can have in our Internet of Things prototyping. Okay, so this is all about the connectivity in the IoT devices that we have seen. And IoT devices we have seen such as sensors, some microcontroller boards, as soon as we have seen some more actuators also into it. Thank you.